In the early 2000s, the popularity of World War II games were on the rise. It all started in 1999 with the release of Medal of Honor, which would then become one of the most well-known video game franchises of all time, even setting the stage for Call of Duty a few years later. Medal of Honor would eventually kill itself and dig its own grave a decade later, but it also did something equally astonishing, kicking off the World War II genre.
Nowadays, the World War II genre has hit a bit of a snag in the gaming scene. The want for a new World War II game just isn't as prominent as it used to be, especially after the confusing and downright disrespectful reveal of Battlefield 5. The gaming scene has definitely changed since the early 2000s, and a new World War II IP today would be a harder sell than Bill Cosby selling you an alcoholic beverage. I would imagine making a World War II game today would be quite difficult when you have the big nuts like Call of Duty and Battlefield still on the market. It would have to be more than just another shooter.
Which brings us to Brothers in Arms, released in February of 2005, known by many, including ourselves, as the greatest World War II video game of all time. Brothers in Arms took the World War II genre in a more authentic and respectful direction.
It was more than just another first-person shooter, and it took this type of game to a whole other realm. It was a game with heart. It respected the men who fought during the tragic war by making you care about the people you were fighting alongside with. There was a strong emphasis on camaraderie that few games managed to capture in the past. So much care was put into every aspect of the game to make it feel as authentic as possible.
The story in Brothers in Arms focuses on the 502nd Parachute Infantry Regiment of the 101st Airborne Division. You play as Sergeant Matt Baker, who must lead his squad during the historic Mission Albany, which was a real operation during the airborne landings into Normandy on June 6, 1944. Each level in the game was based off of actual missions tasked to the 101st Airborne Division, like the clearing of anti-aircraft guns behind enemy lines and capturing the town of Carentan.
The reason this game is so good is how it handled the genre. So much care was put into every facet of the game, from the story and its characters to the gameplay. Sergeant Baker and his squad all felt like actual people with emotions and motivations. You got to know each character on a deeper level, and the connection you had with these characters only got stronger the more time you spent with them.
The game was able to flesh out each of these characters enough to make you care about them. You learn about some of their past lives before the war, and there was a strong chemistry between all of the characters that only got stronger as the game went on. When a character died in the story, you felt like you lost someone significant. It was impactful. The game did a great job with relaying the same emotions as the character you were playing as. Baker's inner monologues between missions gave you a better understanding of the stress that comes with leading a group of men through battle. You're able to understand the pressure put upon him for the well-being of his men. He never asked for this responsibility. He was forced to lead these soldiers after the original squad leader died in training prior to the invasion.
I never asked to be squad leader.
Famed voice actor Troy Baker did a good job with making this character feel dimensional. And by the way, Troy Baker voicing a guy named Baker is just great casting. They had to have planned this out.
Brothers in Arms was like no other World War II game at the time and is still very unique to this day. It was more tactical than any other World War II shooter and focused more on commanding your squad than shooting your way through situations. As a player, you command two squads which you can direct at will. You can send your squads to any location and they will proceed to that spot while finding the best cover from the enemy. You can have them suppress an enemy squad while you proceed to flank them and get the upper hand. The AI was extremely smart, and your enemy would fall back to different locations if they saw that they were being flanked. In the later games, they would also use these same tactics against you to try and flank your position when they could.
The game stressed tactical gameplay so much that even though you could shoot your own gun, it was purposely difficult to hit your target if they were behind cover. Some players felt that was too frustrating, but there was a reason for it being so difficult. If you could easily shoot your target, the tactical gameplay would be diminished, and it would just be another shooter. The most viable use of your gun was to suppress an enemy or shoot them if they were in the open. It's one of the reasons, I think, the game is so unique. You had to think your way through confrontations instead of just mindlessly mowing down your enemies. Not that I hate that sort of thing. I love mowing down dudes as much as the next guy, but I applaud this game for relying on tactics more so than an itchy trigger finger.
It's almost mind-boggling that the next IP Gearbox ended up making was Borderlands, a far cry from what kind of game Brothers in Arms was. It's like if Steven Spielberg made Ready Player One directly after Schindler's List. Now that's maybe not the best analogy, but you see what I mean.
Gearbox released a sequel to Brothers in Arms, Earned in Blood, which put you into the legs of Joseph Red Hartstock. It follows Corporal Hartstock during the events of Road to Hill 30, before being promoted to sergeant and before succumbing to the no-leg syndrome. It was a great companion piece to Hill 30, and it shed more light on the events of the first game.
Shortly after, a third game was released in the series, Hell's Highway. It had the opportunity to take advantage of the new hardware, that being the Xbox 360 and PS3, but the game didn't exactly live up to the expectations of the last two games. We felt like the game's mechanics were more catered to your typical shooter, and was less reliant on using your brain than your bullets.
But going back to Road to Hill 30, you can say what you will about the game, but there's no denying that Gearbox took a risk and saw innovation in a genre that was mostly doing much of the same thing. There's only a select few shooters I can think of on the top of my head that had this much heart.
It was a game that respected the events and the people it was loosely based on. It's wishful thinking we'll get at least one more Brothers in Arms game in the near future. Hopefully Gearbox can give Borderlands a quick break to work on a new installment.
Maybe now that Godfall has drifted off into the dust, maybe we'll get a new Brothers in Arms now. Who knows? I'll wait as long as I have to. As long as it doesn't end up like what they were originally planning with the cancelled comeback game, Furious 4. What an off-season April Fool's joke that was.
If you guys enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll have more great gaming videos for you guys very soon.